I'm a nerd.
Nerds.
Nerds.
Nerds! I'm not kissing a nerd.
What is a nerd?
Nerd!
Holy crap, are we nerdy?
So anyways, welcome to Nerdables episode 125. This week we're discussing why Marvel is not putting the R in Marvel.
Can we discuss why Ethan's obsessed with Taiwanese people selling vitamins?
And
maybe next week.
Probably more interesting than the Ghostbusters trailer, which we'll get to later on. And then we'll see if there's any room for anything else. I'm going to do it two topics tonight.
For the gladiators for on top of the Ghostbusters trailer.
So, you guys want to jump right into Marvel?
You don't want to do the Ghostbusters trailer?
Okay, let's do the Ghostbusters trailer first.
Go, Sebastian.
Ghostbusters trailer has more unlikes than dislikes than likes.
371,000 dislikes last I checked, and when I posted on Facebook a couple days ago, it was already at like 260,000 versus only 100,000. And so here's the thing: I thought I was going to be alone. I even told Chris it's like I watched a trailer, and I was expecting my biases to just absolutely hate it. But I watched the trailer and went okay, it's the proton pistols from Ghostbusters, the comic book, and from Extreme Ghostbusters, and Melissa McCarthy had a wrist shooter, which was the original design. The Neutrona one was on the wrist shooter. But then, I was okay, that's kind of cool. The ghosts look good CGI. But then everything else in the trailer was just
felt like Laurel Michaels produced it.
So bad. I mean, and here's the thing. Anybody watching the original Ghostbusters movie goes it's a horror thriller movie first with comedy to break the tension.
Sure.
That's the thing is they're not cracking jokes at each other. There's no stereotype. Slapping around.
There was no slapstick.
Yeah, there was no intentional slapstick. A lot of the humor comes from sort of snide remarks.
Yeah, it's more dialogue based.
Yes.
The only thing that I thought would be close to slapstick is when he gets slimed, but it's done in such a great way.
And you never even see it.
Because of Venkman's reaction to it. When they turn the corner,
and it's not a comical reaction. He's portraying at least some fear.
Well, the comedy was real. It wasn't forced. And this felt like several skits from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, the only visual gag in Ghostbusters, really, the original film, is there's this great moment they had just finished busting Slimer out of the Cedric Hotel, and they're trying to come up with prices. And if you look at Harold Ramis, he's flashing numbers across his face, pretending to scratch his cheek, or he's got an itch on his nose, and that's a great.
I've never noticed that.
It's a great visual gag. He's it's like oh well, for the entrapment it'll be 4 big ones, and you see Egon scratching his face with 4 fingers.
Never noticed that.
And then he goes and then for in storage of the monster it'll be $1,000, and he's tapping his nose with with 1 finger, and they're both looking. It's a great subtle visual gag that plays really well. And then when you look at other things, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is supposed to be that one big joke, but then everybody takes it very seriously because the only joke is its visual appearance, and then it's oh right, it's stepping on people and crushing buildings. It's not a joke anymore, and you have
but the joke is that it's
Ray
is
trying to
thinking
think
of
of something harmless. But even when you look at they tried to, in the trailer they showed basically them doing the Eleanor Twitty ghost from the New York Public Library, and in that scene, the only joke is it's how do we accomplish this? And they're really trying to figure it out, and they're kind of dorky.
And that part I didn't mind.
Right, but then the gag in the film is her getting vomited on.
Right.
And then, how long it takes to wash that side? It gets
It's
everywhere.
everywhere, and I mean everywhere.
The movie is no longer threatening, because at least the ghost in the first Ghost was, legitimately...
But do you think they went out to make it non-threatening?
In this movie?
In this movie.
This feels like it's a comedy first.
It's Paul Feig. Yeah, it is. It's intentional. It's the same humor from his other films, Bridesmaids and Spy. But I will say, a movie like Spy works better because it's sort of a parody in the theme of Austin
Holy
Powers.
crap! You are so right. I've never noticed that. Even the scene just before, the shot
Chris
just
is
before
watching the finish to the Cedric Hotel.
I never noticed.
Gag.
So Venkman is writing down on the sheet. He's trying to keep it away from the maitre d' or whatever there, the person from the hotel.
Yeah, the
and he keeps looking up at Egon. Egon's looking down, and they're eyeing this piece of paper and up and down. Wow.
4 big ones.
4.
Yeah, that is Wow.
And then for the storage, it's going to be $1,000. And it's like $5,000.
I've always paid attention to Peter. I've never watched Egon in that scene.
And that's the thing. That is the visual chemistry of all of these people.
Well, it's a brilliant scene because all of these people are so well done. I mean, the hotel representative here is such a great character in such a small role he has.
Yeah, he's
the way that he plays it. You really pay attention to him. And then you're paying attention to Bill Murray's Peter.
But even that,
and that is the extent of like the visual. I'm making a joke humor in the original Ghost, but everything else, even Winston's line, like "If you're a god, you say yes." Yeah, funny line, but in the context of the situation, very frightening.
But even a lot of the comedy comes from the supporting characters,
right?
Well, let me ask.
A lot of the slapstick does come from Lewis Tully,
from Janine.
He keeps locking himself out of the apartment. Janine is very snide.
The maitre d',
maitre d', who is. Well, I mean, even then, like
even at the library.
Yes, who again? It's humor, but it's humor that's very much grounded in a sort of reality. No one's trying to be funny or being or enacting jokes. In this trailer, it's all. I mean, Patty, the character, when Melissa McCarthy gets possessed, is like, it's like, oh my God, Jeebus and the devil. I got, the power of Patty comes out. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
that is, and there's a reason why everyone is now like. You took a character like Winston Zeddemore, who's the spirit of the Ghostbusters, the soul of the Ghostbusters.
He was the one straight thing. I mean, if you want to talk about comedy,
he's the straight man.
He's the straight man.
And his character, he's. I mean, if you're going to look at sort of the expanding, he's a former Marine, and by the time you get to Ghostbusters 3, which is the video game, he goes back for his doctorate. But, he's the spirit of the Ghostbusters. He's the everyman quality. He's the guy who talks the mayor of New York into letting them fight essentially a god. He's the guy who speaks for everyone and can take what they say and translate it into something the audience.
He's the voice of the audience.
He is. And originally, the character was going to be Eddie Murphy and was going to be introduced far earlier in the film,
which would have
been made the movie very different. But when they cast Ernie Hudson, they rewrote the role to make him the guy. It's like, okay, there's a lot of crazy stuff in this film. Now we need a guy who can learn, who can be with the audience and sort of learn the ropes and how they do everything. Everyone talks to him seriously. He talks to them seriously. And then in this movie, it's like, okay, they kind of set up the character Patty. It's like, you don't know the city. Okay, fair enough. That's an interesting dynamic. But then,
even the actress is so big in everything she does.
Right.
Did you notice in the trailer that the background on Times Square is a gigantic picture of a Twinkie that says "That's a big Twinkie"?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you watching the Ghost?
I'm watching the terrible trailer. That trap is insane.
Yeah, it's like a bear trap.
That's crazy.
And
here's my problem with this trailer. Besides the fact it's not very funny. Is the beginning of the trailer is so incredibly misleading, because if you watch the beginning of the trailer, after you get past the Sony Columbia piece, the Village Roadshow pictures, it's a shot in New York, and then it's 30 years ago. They saved a city or what have you. And it's like it's not an in-universe film.
Then they show you the
old
the old firehouse.
But it is but it's still a firehouse.
It's still a firehouse.
It's still Hook and Ladder number 8 in this.
So it's just a bizarre sort of thing. They show the original symbol, and then it's a new. It was just like the first time I watched it, I said, "This is incredibly misleading." It's almost like they're selling it as a sequel when it's not.
And it's not. Everyone has even said, all the producers have said. Even Paul Feig said, "No, the only reason he took this movie." Was because he didn't.
I like the look of the library ghosts.
The look. I mean, that's the
thing. The look of the ghost. Slimer looks almost exactly the same.
Yeah, and my other big gripe is that the villain of the movie is the ghost with a red bow tie. And it's one of those things like you want something visually impactful like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but that's a little. That's for me. That's when I goes like, okay, that's a little too, that's a little too fourth wall breaking. Like. The logo for your ghost bad guy ends up being the actual villain of the movie. That's kind of silly. And that was Mattel's fault for putting out the toy at Toy Fair as the villain of the film. And then the idea that he can possess people and the leaked script, there's a big dance number at the end, which they may or may not still keep.
I'm wondering...
Well, that means that Chris is going to love this movie.
Yes.
I'm wondering, because the movie's out in July 15th.
Right. And then the week after, I mean, it's a movie that is immediately going to be up against Star Trek 3.
Right.
Which, again, it's Justin Lau, and it's one of those things like that movie is...
Is that this year?
That's this year, yeah. Wow. It's a movie that's immediately going to be overtaken by other big films.
We really need to hire some younger people to do this podcast, because I feel so out of it now. I'm
We
like,
did.
so
We got
busy.
Sebastian.
This is why we bring Sebastian. He actually knows dates and numbers and stuff like that. Where I'm just saying, like, is that really this year? Really? What?
Yeah.
It seems like no. It's next. I don't remember. When's the new Raiders?
But here's my point with it. It's in July, right?
Sure.
There's still enough time. We've seen with other movies that they can go back and do some reshoots on some scenes.
But here's the thing: they haven't yet.
Right.
They have wrapped shooting entirely. They wrapped shooting in October.
Oh no, yeah,
and then it's March, and March 3rd was their trailer release. That means they did a lot of cutting to this movie. They also got their budget slashed. But here's the thing.
Well, see, the week I was on Sony Live,
I was worried that I would hate what I saw because of bias.
Right.
And watching things like, okay, it's a little reference here, a little reference there. It's like, okay, that makes me feel good. But as somebody who watches and dissects films,
I thought Busted makes you feel good.
it does make me feel good.
File.
But
that's definitely a file.
But I look at this and I went like, it's like, this is just bad. And it's not the bad of like.
Sorry, I'm looking through I'm looking at the trailer on YouTube, and then it's just, I just put in
Ghostbusters trailer
but I like
reactions.
angry trailer reaction from Angry Joe Show.
Oh yeah,
and
he
it's
did
just
not
it's
like
the
it.
symbol to the left, and to the right is him with just the face palm. I mean,
The
he looks
red
like
lit-
the Jean-Luc Picard face palm. Like
The
crazy.
Red Letter Media guys did a reaction video that was like, I kind of like some stuff in it, but then it was awful. Chris Sanders, another big YouTuber, Black Nerd Comedy, did reactions, and it's all been bad.
Well,
Bobby Burns, 5 reasons the Ghostbusters trailer sucks, and the picture is just him flipping the camera off.
When I first sat down to watch
My
it,
God.
the first third of it, I was like, okay, I'm interested. But as it went on, I was like, this is going to be painful.
This is another
Okay,
fantastic.
I'm going to stop it right there, but you're still going to see it.
I will still see it.
This is why.
But that's
what's wrong with the movie?
This is what I.
It doesn't matter whether I go to see it or not.
No,
they're
yes, it
still going to
does.
make
It
it.
does.
Yes, it does.
because if enough people don't feel obligated to watch a movie just because
It's
they
not
have.
that I feel
Why
obligated.
you want to see it so bad then?
Why you got the microphone so close to your mouth?
It's not. Well, that's how you talk
He's
to a
very
microphone.
passionate right now.
Well, no,
about this.
because this is.
Well,
this
no,
is
because
the thing
it's
that's
okay.
okay.
upsetting.
Hold on,
serious
hold on.
consideration.
We'll stop because there's 3 instances. Number 1, when you said that, I shocked me. I'm like, it's going to be terrible. And then 2, realize that you've done this in the past. You saw TMNT. You went to see Fantastic Four.
Yes.
You saw Jonah Hex.
I went to
here,
see
what was it, last week, 2
Green
weeks ago?
Lantern with you guys.
Green Lantern, I'll give you. I went to see Green Lantern too. Green Lantern was the
You
first
went and
one
saw
I read.
Transformers 4.
That's the last one. That's not what Transformers 4 was my lesson. I got to the end of that and I said, what the fuck am I doing? I knew this was going to be bad. I liked 3 enough that I thought maybe 4 could be okay. But I didn't have high hopes, and I went and it was absolutely terrible. And I realized I went to see it because I felt like I should have, because I saw the first 3.
Sure.
And that's the end. This is like when I started dropping comic books. When I sat there and I said, I'm buying a Punisher book that I feel is terrible. Matt Fraction's run was not very good to me. So I dropped that book. And the next Wednesday, there were still comics on the rack. I still had stuff to buy. And I learned from it. This is the same thing.
Okay, G.I. Joe 1.
Stop. Because I want to get to the last one. 2 weeks ago, we're sitting here watching TV, and the trailer for Peach Dragon comes on.
Yes.
And in the middle of it, you nearly had a bowel movement. You were groaning so bad. And at the end, I have to go see that, and it's going to suck. No, you don't have to go see it.
It's not that it's going to suck. Because I'm sure that
You're going to hate it.
it's because it's not the original, it's not the
Sure,
musical.
Sure, that's
So
fine.
take that day,
Then don't go.
and watch the original. My favorite line of last week is Mikey telling me, as we're talking about Batman Superman, Mikey's direct quote, "Oh my God, I can't wait till that weekend so I don't have to see that."
Yeah.
That was brilliant. I'm like, okay, there you go. And I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence because visually I find Zack Snyder's stuff interesting enough that I
you're
can
talking about-
kind of just Batman versus Superman. But I'm still looking at it and going, I
2.5
really should not. I really should not go see this. I really shouldn't. But
Okay, so Sebastian, are you going to go see Batman versus Superman?
No,
hell no.
I hated Man of Steel. Why would I go see the sequel?
Ethan, are you going?
Yes.
But
Even
you
though
didn't,
you
you
know-
didn't hate Man of Steel. You like most.
Well, yeah, I like.
You like the bulk of Zack Snyder's work.
I'm
Fair
the
enough.
only person here who likes Zack Snyder, and I enjoyed Man of Steel.
Yeah, and that.
Which
Yeah,
you know the
I'll
comment
go
he
see
made
it.
last
But
night
here's the
about
thing. I understand
Warner
that
Brothers
'cause
not
you
having
like
a
the
hit.
first
Yeah.
movie. You have
No, I
no
know.
reason not to go. I didn't
Sucker
like it.
Punch.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I waste
Right.
the 12, 50, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17
No, that's
potential
a different
dollars?
thing.
And that's for me for Ghostbusters. My Ghostbusters release day is 1, 2, and the video game, and I'll be happy. And that's the thing.
Okay,
It's like I don't have to pay.
I still can't believe you like 2.
But
I don't even like 2.
I can tolerate
enjoy
it.
two.
I
as well.
enjoy 2, but I enjoy 2 from the standpoint of like, okay, it's the universe, whatever. They have different adventures. I read the comics. The comics are amazing. And Ghostbusters 3, it's like I understand Ghostbusters 2 is them trying to like, okay, let's Ghostbusters 2 also
Not your
hurt
favorite,
one.
but you can still enjoy.
I can still enjoy, but it's also a movie that was hurt by Batman coming out. They had to try and get something else that was a little bit bigger, or at least the theming. The real Ghostbusters cartoon show came out.
It's also a
and
sequel.
It's also a sequel, and it's also one of those things where it's like, yeah, they're as much as someone like Dan Aykroyd has always said, I want to go big. It's a movie that like you still have budgetary constraints. It wasn't until Ghostbusters 3, which is the video game, where he goes like, I have a video game. We don't have to be old. We can do the stories we've always wanted to do, and there is no budget constraints to something like a video game where they actually go to the ghost world. They're actually fighting a huge threat. You know, there's bigger monsters, bigger
like the
weapons.
series was able to.
But
Do whatever they
Exactly,
wanted.
and
The other thing
I
with-
understand sort of that curse of Ghostbusters 2, like you want to go bigger, but you really don't have the technology or the money.
For
to
me,
But
go
they
the-
didn't make it with Ghostbusters with the intent to make a sequel or any going
Right.
on.
No,
it was
it's-
it was a movie.
My thing with Ghostbusters 2 in terms of is that
It's also again,
it
I've
went
said
it
lightning
went
in
a
a
lot
bottle.
lighter,
It did.
and
Yes.
I would have preferred the not necessarily darker, like oh it's dark, but the threat to me was never super interesting because it was like oh we just have goo.
Right.
Okay.
And the threat
that's
is
just me.
the threat is really in the villain of the movie, who you don't really see till the very end. They try
Yeah.
again; it's another Gozer situation, but the idea of the villain of Vigo the Carpathian, he's essentially the Genghis Khan who is coming back to the real world, and that's a threat. Like you sort of see his ability; he's supposed to be a mystic. And he's taking over Yano. She needs a new body, so he wants to kidnap the baby. But it's also something where it's like he's a villain that there's a lot you could do with, but how much time do you spend on a character like Vigo? And it's a movie that I absolutely agree. It's not a great movie, but it's also one of those things like going back. It's like I wish that was a character that you could expound on because he's a character who. He is the Genghis Khan. He took over most of the world in the Ghostbusters universe.
But see, that was the other thing with the movie is they focused on one centralized ghost in that film, whereas the first film you had multiple ghosts that they were chasing,
building up.
Yeah,
Yeah, the villain in the first film is in a way in that first like that middle act is the B story,
right.
To them like going after
Yeah, things are
Slimer
getting
and the
worse.
montage of things are getting worse, and then the little bit is what happens to Dana, what happens to Rick Moranis' character, just
Lewis.
totally Lewis
Lewis.
and stuff like that. So it's a very good balance. It's very even, and then once everybody shows up and the building explodes and all of that, you're like, okay, well,
Okay, now in the new one we also have Chris Hemsworth
Who's playing Janine?
yes, but you also see him basically in the Ghostbusters onesie.
Yeah, but he has
He's
got
tied it around.
He's got a duct tape name badge, and he's got orange tape on his arms because he's supposed to be like, oh look at me guys, I can be Ghostbusters too, ha ha ha, I'm gonna help. And
then
then
talked about Ghostbusters too.
no, I 2TOO.
Oh, okay.
Which is
Ghostbusters
he's
also.
He's supposed to be like he's supposed to be the incompetent secretary who wants to try and he's got the hoop dreams. He wants to be a Ghostbuster.
If they called this movie Ghostbusters also, would it be more tolerable?
Ghostbusters TOO. No. What would have made this movie tolerable if they said, yeah, the Ghostbusters are old, they can't do this job anymore, and they need more help. And boom, eliminated every single problem you could possibly have with this movie. Because that's just, and that's not even me. That's the extreme Ghostbusters from the 1990s where, the ghosts have gotten more powerful to defeat. It's harder for them. They're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, and they need new people. And they hire a younger, because of course they end up being like, diversity squad, black guy, crippled guy, girl, Latino. And of course you go like, okay, it's the 90s, there's, a lot of that weird stuff. But if that had been this as a simple, you got 20 minutes to show the Ghostbusters clearly being old and needing help, then you can hire whoever you want, and you've got an in-universe movie that
Is that what
respects the
bugs you the
canon.
most? Is that it's not in universe?
It's a remake, but bugs me most is it actually ended up looking terrible.
But that's the thing is when I first watched the trailer, I didn't laugh at all.
I didn't either. I looked at it and went like,
The jokes in it are that everything seems like really recycled.
Yeah.
The only thing I kind of chuckled is Leslie Jones, because when Leslie Jones goes crazy, I find it funny, and I know not a lot of people.
When
she
the crap
attacks
out
Mr.
of
McCarthy, I kind of chuckled at that because I'm an idiot. You know, it's the same thing. The trailer for Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, absolutely terrible. But when he slams into that glass pane, I can't stop laughing.
God, you are like Kevin.
It's just weird. Well, I won't go see the movie because of
yeah.
that. That's the thing where I sit there and watch that. Like, I know this movie isn't funny. That's probably the only thing that I personally would find funny in that type of film. But there's just kind of that one thing. Napoleon Dynamite. The first time I saw the trailer, and I loved Napoleon Dynamite. I've grown to appreciate that movie so much. But
I hated it the first time I saw it.
I hated it the first time I saw it too. The second time I
got
saw
older, I was like, okay, I'm getting this.
Yeah.
the first when I saw the trailer for Napoleon Dynamite, nothing was funny except when he tries to jump off the ramp and he just falls on the bike and then that's the sound he makes. I saw Napoleon Dynamite the first time when I was out at White Chocolates, and I did not like it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. I'm like, whatever. 3 or 4 days later, I watched it when I was at my friend's Aaron's house, and I was cracking up. And he had the same thing. He's looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? This is not funny. He watched it 2 days later with his sister and could not stop laughing. Yeah. It's this weird thing, like it's like a food that you have when
it's like a fungus.
No, it's like a food that you have it the first night and you're like, it's like my mother's baked macaroni. It's very good. The first night you're like, okay, this is. You put it in the fridge and let it sit for a day and then reheat it. It's amazing. And that's exactly what Napoleon Dynamite is.
Cold pizza. It's always
that should have been the tagline for it. Put it in the refrigerator, let it sit for a day, then go see it again.
I absolutely love that film, and I still watch it, and I still crack up every single time.
So you guys ask why?
I watched the cartoon, which
I did too.
Nobody on earth watched.
I saw
it.
Cartoon
was
amazing.
Chris was the only person giving
you
the
have
ratings.
No idea how great that when he finds the colony of ligers. Holy crap. The very first episode where he's actually dating Pedro starts dating the Summer or whatever, hilarious. The end of it is absolutely incredible, and all of the actors return. Every single one of them is playing. It was like what 6, 8 episodes they got on the air. That was I'm watching that going, this is so good, and all my friends are like, why are you watching that? I'm like, watch it. It's funny. It's really, really funny. Eric had the same thing. It's like, that can't be funny. Watch an episode. He's like, holy crap, this is hilarious.
So the reason
cannot find that show.
So the reason I would go see it or will go see it is
because
twofold.
You hate your free time.
Twofold. One person of this group has to see it.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
So we have to make some kind of comment on it.
No, they don't.
No, we don't.
We can't have a review show. A review show of you just going, hey, I went to see it. Guess what? I'm looking at the screen, and there's a big, gigantic piece of turd right up on the screen. And I didn't even notice for 2 hours. I got to the end and like, oh, that wasn't the movie. It was just a still shot of a steaming pile of fecal matter
I don't remember
on
the
screen.
FF review show we all had with just you. So we don't need to go and see that movie.
And
this
two,
is what Sebastian brings to the
and two, I go to these movies hoping that I'll be pleasantly surprised.
But you're not with something like this.
But here's the thing, though, and we talked about this a while ago. Is like, how often does that really happen?
Yeah, I know.
How often does it really?
I have to say, and I'm sorry, your text. Well, even though it looks like trash, I'm going to see it. Is the most rich thing I've ever read in my entire life.
And your one time for my. Edge of Tomorrow was your one that you thought was going to be awful and ended up being really good.
Oh my God, Edge of Tomorrow. When I first went to go see it, he's like, what the hell did you go see that for? That looks stupid. And I'm like, that was amazing. And that was something like, I wanted to go see it. I didn't go out of my way. It was, I think Robert and I were doing Skrull at Earth 2. We get to the end of the day, and he's like, Edge of Tomorrow's playing at the $3 theater. You got to go see it. So I went with him. I'm like, okay, it's $3, whatever. I'm a quarter of the way through that film going, this is amazing. It's great action, great acting, hilarious as fuck.
Yeah.
And just a brilliant movie.
It was a
every
surprise.
turn.
It was a surprise.
That's my question.
But I still don't understand why you thought it was going to be so bad. That's where I don't understand. What I didn't understand was like when I said it.
See, I hate Tom Cruise too, but at least I can respect his acting ability. So that's at least for me, because I know when I went like before I realized
I've enjoyed too many Tom Cruise films to say that.
It just felt like it was going to be Groundhog's Day.
I was like,
with
okay.
action. That's what it.
That's I suppose. Yeah,
What's wrong with Groundhog's
It's a
Day?
loose.
No, I love Groundhog's Day.
Okay, then what are you upset about?
Well, then I could just watch Groundhog Day by your guys'
No, but it's not going to be just like Groundhog's Day.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
I won't go see it
Not going to see it.
because the first one was terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
I will say this: like,
There's not enough.
Would
different,
you
there's not enough
see it?
different people.
Would you see it when it's on Blu-ray or something?
No,
I'll
Why
see
would
it.
I waste
I'll
my
see
time?
it when it's on
Because
Hulu
Krang,
3
you're
months
finally
later.
getting
Don't care.
Rocksteady Bebop.
I can-
Casey Jones.
I've
the
already
actor-
got. Hold on. I've already got finally getting Bebop and Rocksteady in the IDW comic, and I'm perfectly happy with them. I have Bebop and Rocksteady in the Nickelodeon cartoon,
which is
and
so scarcely on.
yeah,
And it's got Napoleon Bonafrog in it.
Oh my god, that was one of the best episodes.
That was
ever.
one of the good.
I lost my mind when he's just that shot. It shows the shot. He's just standing there. He's got the fanny pack. He's got his tongue kind of half out, and I'm like, what's
It's
this
got
supposed
the
to be like?
T-shirt.
Is this like Napoleon Dynamite? What are you doing? Oh my god, that's John Hader. He actually did it. I love that man. That man's awesome. TMNT 2 is the same group of people, so I have no interest in the sequel. It's the same creators. It's the same team making that film. I had no interest in the first one. It looked terrible. You even said it was terrible.
It was horrible.
The only person that said that movie was good is our friend Jonathan, because he can't allow himself, as a huge Turtle fan, to admit that that movie sucked ass.
Right.
It's like when I walked out of
No,
Generations.
he even says that it wasn't good.
Yeah, but
Not
at
at first.
at first he was like, "No, it was good." It was. I had the same thing when I walked out of Star Trek Generations. I'm like, "Oh yeah, it was good," because I'm not. I really want this movie because I was a huge Next Gen fan. Like, I can't admit that it's bad. It's bad. So no, there's nothing.
Stephen Amell's in it.
I don't care. Well, I don't follow people. I could care less.
Right.
Megan Fox is in it in a schoolgirl outfit.
Yes.
That should be. Oh, they should go. I don't give a crap. It doesn't. There's nobody changed. If you would have told me Ridley Scott is directing TMNT 2 and we changed the entire acting team, yeah, I'll go see that.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Well, of course it would. But there's nothing. There's
Be
nothing new
completely
in it.
different.
If it's the same people, it's sort of the same thing like with Batman vs Superman. I didn't like Man of Steel.
Right.
And ultimately, I did not like Man of Steel. I thought it was paced horribly, blah, blah, yada yada. Except for 300, which isn't an amazing film, but it was visually stunning and all. I've never really liked a Zack Snyder film.
So-
I find them visually interesting, and so that's the only part that kind of goes. I kind of want to go see the eye candy, but am I willing to spend $14 to go see some eye candy for 2.5 hours? And I got to sit through. Jesse Eisenberg playing a Lex that I look at and go, why didn't you just do Mark Zuckerberg from the Social Network?
Right.
It would have been great. Instead, I've got, oh no, the redcoats are coming and
It's
I'm the Joker.
It's the same mistake that Superman Returns made. You cast you cast one of the greatest actors in America today, and then you basically make it's like play Gene Hackman again.
Exactly.
And I go,
No, play Gene Hackman from the terrible later movies.
Yes.
Play him from Superman 3. I mean, don't play Gene Hackman from the first movie, even though that's pretty bad too. Yeah. No, it's just there's no reason. I have no interest in seeing that film at all. I have no interest in seeing Ghostbusters. Just none. And these are people I like. I happen to really enjoy Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones as comedians.
Yes.
And
You tolerate.
it's not tolerate. I like Melissa McCarthy. I just don't see a lot of stuff
No,
that she's
no.
in. When she's hosting SNL, I think she's fantastic.
But yeah, but
I've
her
seen
movies like
pieces of-
Spy and things like that they're very slapstick.
Yeah,
Well, here's
and
the thing,
it can be
and
good.
And I will say, like, for as much as I dislike Paul Feig's movies, he has one that I really like with Melissa McCarthy, and it's Spy.
Yeah.
And because
Spy looked interesting. I actually kind of want to say.
Spy, it's not great.
Which she's on that little bike.
But it's
thing.
in the tradition of
Also-
it's a movie that's like okay, let's try the Austin Powers formula again, and
Sort of like a top
and-
secret
Yeah,
sort
and
of thing.
Paul Feig's perfectly suited to it. It also has Jude Law in it, who's really good.
Yeah.
you know,
Jason
and
Statham.
it's a movie, but it's also bizarrely enough one of his most restrained movies, where he's not doing as much crazy stuff as you expect.
See, and Bridesmaids, I chuckled through it, but I did not enjoy it.
I don't think that movie's for you anyway.
No,
but
yeah,
but
that's-
back to the point. I like the actresses that are in this film. I like Chris Hemsworth. It's a very beautiful.
The
human
actresses, Chris
being.
Hemsworth.
The actress in the film. I like Chris
leading
Hemsworth.
lady Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, hey, you know, it's a good-looking dude.
It is for you, right, Chris?
But I have no interest in it. That's not going to make me go see the film at all. You know, those days of the '80s where it's like, well, anything Arnold Schwarzenegger is in, people will flock to see it because you know you're going to get him
Right.
shooting everything in the world. Those are gone. The idea of actors bringing people into film in terms of like large, blockbuster films, that's all gone. People may go. No, it's gone.
I don't think so.
What actor are you going to go see no matter what they do?
Johnny Depp.
Okay. How many blockbusters has Johnny Depp have been in?
That also hasn't paid. I mean, it was
name me a
that
blockbuster
used to
Johnny
be
Depp
true.
has been in that doesn't start with the word pirates. Exactly. Johnny Depp outside of Pirates is terrible.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah,
that's not him though.
That's a lot of things. But even so, like I was surprised Alice in Wonderland was.
Alice in
getting a
Wonderland was
sequel.
because it was 3D. That movie is a weird
That was
anathema.
also Tim-
but think
Tim
all the
Burton
other stuff
was
that
the
he's
bigger draw
done,
on that, too.
all the other stuff that he's done has all bombed. Lone Ranger bombed. That Window movie, whatever, where he's a writer,
Secret Window?
bombed. All of his other stuff is
Mordecai?
bombed.
Mordecai bombed.
People,
what was the?
people go to movies.
The last good Johnny Depp movie I saw was the one where he puts his brain in a computer and he starts to take over, and that was really
21
good.
Jump Street.
No, what was the? Oh fuck! What's the one with?
See, can't be that good.
No, it is. It's now I can focus on is trying to figure out the name of the one that Sergio. I can think of it. I keep wanting to say Insurgents. Well, I said Sergio, didn't I? Sorry, Sebastian.
But here's the point.
Transcendence.
My point is this. Older people will go see films for a dramatic actor.
Yes.
Sometimes, but that's what. In terms of the days of blockbuster people, even someone like Tom Cruise, he's made as much money worldwide for movies that he has starred in, helped produce, or whatever, than anybody else on the planet. You cannot find a single person that goes, I will go see anything that Tom Cruise is
His name couldn't save Edge of Tomorrow or Jack Reacher.
But it could save him. But his Mission Impossible films are sold on the idea of Mission Impossible.
Right.
Not sold on the fact that it's
Well,
Tom
no, I
Cruise.
get that, and you're right to an extent. But the reason I disagree with you is because these named actors, if you will, are still getting the majority of these roles that you could put somebody like if you're going to go for an Avengers movie and you wanted to have Hawkeye and Captain America thing, you could put in actors that no one's ever heard of. That maybe
that's what they
James
did.
Bond movies.
Well, not
outside. Robert Downey Jr. was not a big star. He was a name.
Scarlett Johansson. People already knew.
But
Scarlett Johansson was not a huge star either.
Yeah,
She does not
the
have a
last
big
big
box.
movie-
office
Jeremy
before.
Renner.
Jeremy Renner, nobody knew.
Yeah, he did.
Not at that.
Here's the thing: they weren't big yet. Robert Downey Jr. when he got Iron Man, he was the guy who everyone.
You knew their names. So what I'm saying is people that you've never heard of,
Even
that
with
have never been
Chris
in,
Hemsworth.
never been in a big movie
even
at all.
Chris Evans was like, they got Johnny Storm to be Captain America.
Yeah.
Really?
That's the genius
What
of
I'm
what they
what
did.
I'm
is they
saying
went
is
after-
what I'm saying is actors that you've never heard of,
James
like
Bond.
that
Hold
have
on.
never
James
been in.
Bond movies are probably some of the last movies that have that sort of tradition. When you look at someone like Daniel Craig, he was almost a nobody by the time he did.
He was
Casino
he was
Royale.
a successful actor, but he's not a star.
And
He
what
was-
I'm saying is,
But what I'm saying is, even as much as people love Iron Man and love Avengers, they're not going to go see Robert Downey Jr. in other films because of Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
You put something like Sherlock, which was, hey, we've updated Sherlock Holmes and it's a fighting movie now. People will go and see it. But nobody went to go see that movie he did with Robert Duvall because, Robert Downey Jr.'s in it. The days of those type of stars are gone. It's franchises, it's names. You can sell a movie off of a director and the studio that brought you this, more so than they ever use a named actor or actress in anything. Except in a drama. You can get people to go see a drama based on who's in it. You put Paul Giamatti in a dramatic film, and there is a certain segment. It's not ginormous. There's a certain segment of people that, no matter what, they'll go see that film because he's in it.
I agree with you, but I disagree with you. There's people like Jennifer Lawrence. People are still going to see her in Joy and other movies like that.
How much money did Joy make? I bet you the Venn diagram of who went to see Hunger Games and who went to see Joy is less than 100,000 people.
I don't know about that.
I know about that. There's no way that a whole bunch of people who enjoyed those 3, 4, 5, 6 films went to go see Joy.
Right. The teenagers are where you're going to drop them off.
Right. I mean, again.
Okay, so back to Ghostbusters.
No, well, I mean, we've kind of segued into Marvel with this, but
we have in a way.
But if we're gonna go, for me, Ghostbusters is one of those things like this movie just doesn't look good, and that's of everything else, that's the most offensive thing.
Now, what would happen if if it came back the weekend after it came out, and everybody said, "Oh my God, there's so many ties to the original," everybody was wrong. They were lying to us. It is within the universe.
If against all odds that ends up happening, and they've already said it's not because
I'm just saying. What if?
I would love to see the Vegas odds for that. What are the Vegas odds that this receives a warm response after the first week?
Right.
No. And I mean,
But if that's then I'll go check it out, and the movie will have to survive for me on its own merits, and that's what it's going to have to do anyways, without my money or not.
And I totally agree with everybody. The movie.
Well, not totally agree because you're still going to go see it.
It doesn't matter.
Well, no,
whether I'm seeing it or
the
not.
agreement from 3 people here is no, we're not going to see this trash.
Putting Slimer in the trailer is not enough to make me go see that movie. Just like putting Harrison Ford in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was not enough for that movie to be good.
Right.
And that's and Crystal Skull is actually in universe. I could have. Here's the thing: it's like I also come from like that James Bondian tradition. I can watch a movie with recast actors as long as they are respecting the original material. They're bringing a little something new because they're not the same person.
It's the Doctor Who thing.
Yes, that's the thing. It's like the first James Bond series from Doctor No all the way through Die Another Day is the same Bond character. It's the same guy. And if somebody were to go like, we're making Ghostbusters, we're doing it in the Bond tradition. We got 4 new guys. They're playing these great. Yeah, they can never be Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis and Ernie Hudson and Bill Murray, but we're gonna give it a go. And you pick good actors. You got a good story that's not literally trying to do the same thing over again. Mm-hmm. The fact that this movie looks like, let's just we're
gonna change names,
names and some set pieces. That's like, well, no. Then you're just making Ghostbusters over again because that's what it is. It's a remake of Ghostbusters.
I mean, because I'm at the point with everybody else where I'm tired of remakes.
Right.
And reboots are fine. They're
Tron
different.
Legacy is a reboot. If this was a Ghostbusters reboot and you had old Egon Spengler recast or old, if you had old Raymond Sands like, we can't do this anymore. We're getting 60. It's like we need young blood. And boom, you got a story right there because now you can introduce brand new characters. You've got
even the franchise
Tron Legacy
thing.
tried to do. Literally, Tron is a legacy film.
Yes, because
it's a reboot. Jurassic World is a reboot and taking an in-universe story and injecting it with new life to bring it to new fans. That's what a true
Star Wars
is.
They could have
Episode 7 was.
They could have kept all these actresses in the movie, and I would have gone, I don't really like any of them. But if there was old Bill Murray and old Dan Aykroyd and old Ernie Hudson, hey, we lost Egon. You could even use Harold Ramis's death as they killed Egon.
Yeah.
If the ghosts were to kill
if your opening segment of the movie is them running from a fight because they're old and they can't do it anymore,
and
Egon is gone,
it's immediately
that's
dark.
immediately like, you just hit me in the feels. Yeah, we need more people. And that's the thing is, in the Ghostbusters comics, they did the rivalry with the Ghost Smashers, a competing organization, and that final story arc for Mass Hysteria was all 9 Ghostbusters. You got, or all with the main 4 team, and you've got Ron, you've got Janine, you've got the rookie from the game,
right?
You've got Kylie Griffin, and you've got Melanie Ortiz. That's them, and then you've got Ron's 3 other team members joining into the fray, and it's this amazing set piece of 13 Ghostbusters all fighting to save the Earth. That's a great set piece. You got the originals, you got the new team, you got Kevin. You got Janine in there.
It would even be great. What if it ended up being in reverse, where we have these new Ghostbusters, no pun intended, and then all of a sudden at the end of it, they need to get the old ones to help them out.
Yeah, but that doesn't work.
And bringing them back in. That
doesn't work because Ghostbusters in the business. And that's the great thing about the comics and the video games. Like Ghostbusters was a business. You just don't start up what are you going to do? Start up a competitor and then take the name? It's like no.
Well, no. If 30 years, if the Ghostbusters brand had been disbanded or died or whatever,
they could have done Dan Aykroyd's original idea and do franchises because that's what they do in the comics and in the video game. They start
the franchise.
They start the Chicago franchise. And the thing is if this was just Leslie. If this was Leslie Jones and all these 4 people, and it was Los Angeles Ghostbusters, and you still got the main guys heading up the corporate, the corporation in New York, whatever.
If they would have done it as a franchise,
there are so many outs to keep it in universe, but do something new. And
you could have done a remake, but keep it in the universe.
Yeah,
very simply, and
again,
all you need is maybe one scene to do it.
Yeah, we're buying in Los Angeles. Hey, you've got Melissa McCarthy and Kate McKinnon or whatever. They're starting to franchise in Los Angeles because you got 1920s actor ghosts.
You do a scene with Dan Aykroyd. She's sitting down at the table with Dan Aykroyd buying
a franchise. Yeah. Boom, and that's done. You don't have to see Dan Aykroyd ever.
Don't have to do anything else ever again with it.
She flies back to LA and they get started. That again, there's so many ways they could have done a sequel, which is what everyone has wanted for a long time. Not me, because I'm okay with leaving well enough alone. But and
you're not America.
And knowing that
you're not American,
but knowing that after those Sony leaks, I read every single Ghostbusters related email that went up onto WikiLeaks. That movie would be more interesting than this movie. The subterfuge. You basically bilking Ivan Reitman out of control of the film, secretly starting production, and getting to a point where he could no longer say no without the loss of cash, knowing that Ghostbusters is really just like, is Paul Feig like, yeah, I'll do it if it's a remake. I got this old superhero script. I can just change the names and make it Ghostbusters.
Okay, so where does the other production of Ghostbusters, the male version... Where does it fit into any of this?
It was because the Russo brothers off of Captain America, like, oh, you making Ghostbusters? I got a pitch to do a male version that's the franchise in this new universe, and that's the jumping off point that they have for it. That's all it is. Once word got out that they were remaking Ghostbusters and starting fresh, that's when.
Now, would you be knowing the Russo brothers and what they bring to the table? Would you be more willing to see theirs?
No. Because it's not
because it's in this new universe.
It's not Ghostbusters. It's just it's if they had called this Ghost Catchers, then I'd be like, oh hey, look, they're doing a Ghostbusters like.
So this
movie.
is like the Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters. For everybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, is the cartoons where you had the original Ghostbusters. I'm sorry, that's what it was. Where you had the two guys and the gorilla.
The real Ghostbusters. That was that name for that one.
No,
the real Ghostbusters was
Filmation's Ghostbusters came out a long time ago. It was an old Filmation cartoon, and then they did Ghostbusters movie, and then because of the name for television, they had to change the name of the animated series to the real Ghostbusters.
That's what it was.
That's
yes,
right.
You're right.
But they also had fun with it because in the real Ghostbusters cartoon, they are literally the real Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters 1 and 2 are movies in the cartoon universe.
Right.
Where there's even an entire episode dedicated to the beginning of production of the Ghostbusters movie, and they want to base it on their first adventure, and they're like, Ramis, Aykroyd, and Murray sounds like a law firm, and they're actors in this universe, and that's also how they get away with doing that.
I remember that. I remember that episode.
So no, I won't go see Ghostbusters just because it looks like a bad movie. It's not. No, my bias is out the window. The moment that trailer hit, I was like, it's not even a good trailer. What was I worried about? This just looks terrible.
Now, going back to what Chris said about how people don't follow actors from movie to movie to movie necessarily.
Right,
But Melissa McCarthy, that seems to happen to a lot of her movies. Spy, Bridesmaids, all the ones that she's been doing. Tammy, she does have a following.
Are they following her or are they following Paul Feig? Because she's his go-to actress.
But that's just it. Most people don't realize who Paul Feig
she's
is.
in pretty much every single movie he's done.
Isn't she?
She's in Bridesmaids.
No. Hold on.
So, do you think that following, whether it's her or him, is going to carry over to this film? After
that public outcry. I mean, here's the thing. It's one thing 6 months ago for Paul Feig to call everyone who dislikes his female Ghostbusters movie misogynists. We're now at trailer time, and when you have that many people, your straw man of people hating it because they're women no longer applies. Now it just looks like a terrible movie.
And now you're also getting the racist card thrown in there.
Yes, because of the character of Patty, who, when you've got a character like Winston Zeddemore who's level-headed and cool and composed and is the everyman, and then you basically turn his character into the loudmouth stereotype.
Yeah,
I can see why people are upset at you.
She's pretty much uneducated, and that's what according to what I've been reading about. She's uneducated. Why can't she be one of the ones that has the doctorate or anything like that? Why does she have to be? Because is it because she's black? And
right, and when you have Winston who has backstory that was developed but was never done.
Right,
he's a former Marine, as one of the original ideas for him, and even in the comics, he's got a wife, and in the video game, he gets his doctorate. And so there's that's a character that's had expansion and done we inadvertently ignored
Ernie
him.
Hudson being African American had nothing to do with
Right.
Winston
Correct.
Zeddemore.
That's exactly the point.
Maybe the name Winston, maybe the blackest thing about him in any way.
And and that's very much true. He's a character that you could have taken anybody and put him in that role, and the character still works as a character.
Yes.
Because but then when you get to this movie, it's like, no, the character of Patty is clearly written
It's
for Leslie Jones, and it's very stereotypical.
Yes.
And I know, watching the trailer, I went like, really? That's what you did to the character?
Well, but see, that's
Winston
Leslie
Zeddemore?
Jones's. Well, that's
It's
exactly
her-
what she does on SNL.
It's her shtick, and I get it, but I also believe that Leslie Jones
has
better
more range.
than that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And has far more range, and I'm sure she could and that thing is like, I don't for what she is on SNL, I don't hate her as a person, and I've seen some stuff where I go she can play that. She can play that grounded character to set everybody else up, and then you even make you make Egon Spangler the weirdo of the group, who's licking her proton pistols and putting on wigs and stuff, and I go like, who are you people?
Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray are both on SNL.
Sure,
and
you
there wasn't that
Ramis.
sketch. There wasn't that sketch comedy in that movie. Where this movie has so much sketch comedy.
Right, and you had Harold Ramis and Rick Moranis, who came
Second
from
City.
Second City, and John Candy was originally going to play the character of Louis Tully before he had some scheduling conflicts.
Yeah.
That would be so weird.
It would be fascinating.
That'd be interesting.
Well, that's the thing that's also, it's like, I want to see that alternate universe movie where you have Eddie Murphy, SNL legend, playing Winston Zeddemore. You've got John Candy playing Louis Tully.
Well, I was just thinking immediately when you said that the physical humor in that film would have been so much different.
Would have been way different
with John. I mean, John Candy running around, around town trying to escape a dog.
Yeah,
a
but
super
it's also,
hellhound.
But he's also, you can kind of see John Candy playing.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
I can totally
playing
see
that
it.
like love-struck neighbor for Dana Barrett, and he's played movies where he's played that very subdued comic.
Because I think one of the things that really works in the way, what disarms Louis Tully in his near obsession with Dana is the fact that he's so much shorter than her.
Right.
When he walks out and he's like, he only comes up to her shoulder.
Oh, that's right, where he's hitting
John Candy, I think, is a lot taller.
I don't.
yeah, but it would still be. It would be
interesting.
There's also that great visual gag in the movie where I can't remember for the life of me the actress's name, but she was Casey Kasem's wife at the time, the blonde at Lewis's accounting party.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
Lewis, I'm going home.
Bonkers. No, I'm gonna freeze him and put him in a grave in Norway.
But see, the John Candy thing would have worked still too, because
Yeah.
you can almost have like a honeymooners type
It
thing.
would have been interesting.
Yeah,
Well, the honeymooners he also threatened to beat his wife every couple.
But that was the humor of it, that you knew it was never done threatening. The same way with Ghostbusters, it was never done.
But for me, my biggest problem is like biases aside, I watch a trailer and it's like, this doesn't look good, and for me that makes it even worse because I would rather be proven wrong about my preconceived notions of the film instead of being proven right. And
Yes.
I'm the guy who goes like, I don't like Paul Feig. I don't like any movie except for one he's ever done. I don't care for any of the actors in this movie. I know the history of this film going in. This sounds like a train wreck, and it's like, I'm probably going to be the odd man out, and I'm going to be the holdout. And then trailer comes along, and I go like, boy, do I hate being right.
Even Carr put up on his Facebook page, he put up, he said, at least I'm not, he goes, thank God I'm not alone on this. And it showed an arrow to the...
That's me. I posted that.
Did you post it? Did he repost that?
He may have. He
okay.
reposted
Yeah, it's
it.
just Gene Kasem is listed as tall woman at party.
Yeah, but no, that's for me. It's like, I posted that it's like, holy shit. I am not alone. There are a lot of people who are very
the majority,
upset. And then to watch all of the famous YouTubers doing their reaction videos and basically being like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not alone in this.
Okay, so speaking of bad ideas, would it have been a bad idea for Marvel to come out like what DC is doing with Batman versus Superman, saying, "Hey, we're going to have our big movie end up being R-rated on Blu-ray"?
Would it have been a bad idea?
Do you think? Because I was sitting here, I'm sitting here going through all of the Marvel characters. Unless they would do a Marvel Max type brand,
not even because there are ways to easily make the Winter Soldier an R movie, and not even be like an R Deadpool movie, just an R spy film, R espionage.
But would they be doing it for the sake of doing it?
Stop. No. Because this is the whole thing that got lost in this. Marvel already has some place where they do nearly R-rated
yes,
stuff.
they do.
And that's Netflix.
Netflix. And
there's a reason why The Punisher's on Netflix rather than a film. Punisher has failed as a film 3 times. Why keep doing a film? Hey, here's an idea. Put it in a show that's already dark and gritty. We've already seen a lot of violence. Not necessarily gore, but a lot of violence. We've used language here or there. The themes are much more adult. It's a much more mature show. You watch Daredevil and go, this is a much more mature show than any movie they've put out at any point, including Winter Soldier, which is a spy thriller. Action-adventure spy thriller.
I don't think it needed to be R.
Well, that's the thing.
No, again, it doesn't need to, but it's a movie that could have easily been made R and not suffered for it.
Marvel can come out and say that very easily.
Yes.
Because, we don't need anything
we
to
don't
be
need,
R.
Yeah, we don't need R.
We did this movie called Avengers. It was PG-13. We made $1 billion. We did this movie called Avengers 2. It made almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
We did Cap 2. We made a couple $100 million. And everything's PG-13. And nobody looks at it and says, you know what, I really loved Winter Soldier. God, I wish it was darker. I wish it was R. I wish there was gore. I wish there was this. There's no language in it. It's so terrible. The cynical nature of people that used to go, films that are PG-13 are too kiddie. You can't take if you were to take The Punisher and put him on the screen and say it's PG-13, even I would kind of go, ugh, those first. That's why they did Punisher Warzone as an R-rated film. They went too far and made it kind of gory and just dumb, but they said Punisher's a type of character that easily lends itself to an R, and not necessarily every other word's going to be the F word and we're going to get really gory and there's going to be scenes of torture or anything. It's just the subject matter is an R subject matter.
But here's the thing, and to sort of piggyback onto that, an R rating is not an indication of substance or quality.
Very true.
Deadpool is an R-rated movie that has substance and quality to its manufacture.
It worked with Deadpool.
So a movie like Blade wasn't just R for the sake of being R. There was something to back that R rating, and a lot of dramas, are rated. A lot of dramas tend to be rated R as well. But that's the thing is Batman vs Superman is a movie that looks all style, no substance, and there's an R-rated cut of that movie. Well, you just did the R-rated cut for the sake of having an R-rated cut at that point.
To piggyback on the idea that there's an R-rated. It's all of this talk comes in that there's one successful R-rated film. This is the same thing that happened. Speaking of Zack Snyder,
every movie of the 1980s.
However many years ago, when 300 opened the first weekend of March and made $75 million in its opening weekend, all of a sudden people started rushing to get films out in March, to get away from the summer glut and have some cool, awesome, eye candy film that released in March. It could be R, who cares, and people would go see it. And then the next 2 times or 3 times they tried that, it all flopped. So they're like, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. Everything needs to be PG-13, and it's going to be released between May and the first week of August. We got to get back to that.
Right.
And then you have to. It's the same thing.
This movie had to move because of Civil War.
There's a whole bunch of different.
But
reasons.
it's also. I'm surprised Zack Snyder still had a semblance of a career after Sucker Punch, which was his film.
Sucker Punch was amazing.
But see, as bad as Sucker Punch was to some people, it still did a lot of money.
I don't know if that's true. Somebody needs to look that up. Because I don't know if that's true.
I'm glad that Marvel came out and made this stance.
Yeah, well, and
granted, because they're owned by Disney, they don't need to.
It's an interesting. It's not so much because Disney makes R-rated movies.
Yes,
because
they
own so many. They own so many movie studios that are under their umbrella that they get away with it. But it's also he's the guy standing. Bob Iger ended up being the lone voice in the storm, saying why do all of our movies have to be rated R all of a sudden?
Hold on. Before you go on, give me a guess. Domestic total gross for Sucker Punch.
$250 million.
Domestic.
Oh, that's probably worldwide.
Domestic.
Give
me a domestic total.
125.
36.
36.
36. 392. 502.
So it flopped.
Made $36 million.
What was the production cost?
Domestic and foreign, 36 here, 53 worldwide. It made less than $100 million.
Wow.
Opening weekend was $19 million, meaning it made more than half of its domestic gross in its opening weekend.
Yep.
So then I stand by my comment. How did Zack Snyder maintain a career after that? And he got Superman, the movie that is supposed to,
Zack Snyder reminds me of Brett Ratner, a guy who had one or two successful films, and then all of a sudden just kept getting handed keys to the kingdom
DC,
over and over again.
DC loves him. Look at he made Watchmen.
Yeah, but DC also loved Rob Liefeld.
But here's the thing. Watchmen also not a good movie. And I look up how much Watchmen made, because I don't think that movie made a lot of money either. I almost had a stroke there for a second.
Bring up Watchmen.
Okay,
we know what your
the production budget for Sucker Punch was $82 million.
So
worldwide, it made $3 million. Which that's just the production budgets. That's not advertising costs.
No.
Either. That movie lost money in its release.
Right.
I'm sure it's
being
made
released, it lost money.
What was the one you wanted?
That's Watchmen.
Watchmen.
I don't
And
think
that's
Watchmen
while
made
he's looking at.
anybody
That's
either.
what kind of wonders about Ghostbusters, though, is if it would lose. Is it even worth releasing it at this point?
Well, they have to now. They have no choice. It's if this was November or December and there was still no marketing campaign, sure, somebody could shelve it and that'd be it.
Because we're obviously going to be getting at least one or two.
I don't
more
think
trailers.
you can see a film that big getting shelved anymore.
No.
I don't think
it's
it
not.
happens.
It's not. Cabin
Not as
in the
far
Woods.
away as it goes. I mean, if you're sitting there going, "Hey, we're gonna make the Alien movie with the guy from District 9,"
Right.
And then it got canceled before anything happened.
Right.
But you
But
can't.
here-
shoot
But you
something.
could see that the movie gets postponed,
Sure.
Oh yeah.
and
But
later
the
and
bigger-
then they go
This
back
isn't-
and do some.
But the
This
bigger.
isn't gonna get
But here's the
postponed.
bigger issue, and this is something about. Oh, do you have the numbers for Watchmen?
Mhm. Okay, your guess. Domestic total gross for Watchmen.
60 million.
No, it had to be closer to like 250.
Both of you are way off. 107.
Okay, so it did
But
respectably.
it only did $77 million in the foreign market too.
Okay,
Really?
so
It's a film. It's a
177?
very well. That's the thing. You release it here, and what was its opening?
Well, see,
opening
I-
weekend again. Opening weekend was $55 million.
So it did. It
Made
did
more than
respectably,
half of its film. It made money
Yeah.
in opening weekend because people were like, oh my god, Watchmen has such a
But then it had word of mouth.
a classic stance here.
Well, that's why I was going to
And
say.
yeah,
is
that's why
domestically,
foreignly
it
it was never going to do
Correct.
anything because you're like, well, what's this Watchmen thing? Oh,
Wait, why are they having the Soviets in this?
So it did respectably, but then I can see its returns diminishing.
$130 million to make.
So
A little. It made $50 million.
It just sort of.
It didn't have a lot of marketing. Though,
It recouped its butt. It had a lot of marketing. They got the Muse song for it.
Oh yeah, it did have. There was a lot.
Okay, so
yeah.
it did respectably.
Okay, hold on. So, can you change this to lifetime gross? Nope, that's theaters. It's not
So while you're looking for that, but here's the thing, not just that, but here's the crazy contract that Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Ivan Reitman had. They got a contract with Columbia Pictures when they were first making it because the movie was not a guaranteed success, but they kind of George Lucased it where that they got complete creative control. They also each of them got the power. If anyone didn't like any step of the production, that movie was stopped immediately. It's what Bill Murray did to the film for years because he didn't like any of the scripts going forward. And then when they said they were gonna do a remake with new characters, he just didn't care to stop it. And also when you read those Sony leaks, you read emails, straight from the horse's mouth. Like, don't worry, I'll keep Ivan Reitman busy. He's not happy that we want to go this route with Paul Feig, and we want to completely redo this Ghostbusters thing. We want to start over from scratch.
It's a wonder
He's not
Sony
happy.
is still in business.
We want to, don't worry, we'll keep him in the dark. We'll
Zack
keep.
Snyder only has 6 films, and one of them is an animated film.
Yeah, he's got that Owls of Gahoo that did not.
Oh yeah, that one did horrible.
That did horribly as well.
He has 6 films worldwide, unadjusted. Man of Steel, 668. That's high.
That is high.
300.
668 million.
668 million. Here's the other unadjusted 300 worldwide, 456. Unadjusted from like 2002.
So he was.
No, it was later than that.
So he is kind of like that.
2007.
He's kind of like that Brett Ratner.
Yeah.
Where he
Watchmen's 130. Dawn of the Dead is 82. Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Gahoo is 60. And then Sucker Punch is 40. Is $40 million.
So you're a big Zack Snyder fan, aren't you, Ethan?
So basically, and then when you read these emails, like don't worry, we'll keep Ivan Reitman busy, whatever. And then you get to a certain point where there's this amazing email where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Ivan, we've started casting people. We're too far into production for this. At this point, we're going to start taking hit on our money. And I'm going to paraphrase, but the quote is almost exactly, "Fine, I don't care anymore. Do whatever you want." and that is his final communication with the head of Sony after this movie has already started. And it's like, that is pure dejection. That is a guy who has just been rused into making a film.
That's guy been fucked in the ass, and he didn't even have anything.
Clearly just didn't. It already knew that this movie was not going to blow over well. And then you have this trailer, and I'm sure he's going, I should have stopped it. Because the truth is, he could have gotten halfway into filming. He could have stopped it. This thing is, he could have been.
Do you think it's Sony would? Do you think it's more Paul Feig now at this point, or Sony going, I wish we would have stopped this?
That movie looks all Paul Feig.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure somebody there after I mean, just the amount of downvotes on their trailer went. I'm sure Ivan Reitman is going, should have stopped production. Should have stopped this movie. Now it's like I already took a hit on Ghostbusters 2 for, and not even a bad one, but it's like not a great movie or what was even. But now I've got something that looks to be just a steamer.
Now see, these two topics almost seem completely opposite or at polar ends of each other. With Ghostbusters and Marvel, Marvel's decision not to make an R, but they actually do relate to each other. It's not to do something just for the sake of doing it.
And now
and that's what Marvel's big thing. Marvel's thing is still, it's a bit of grandstanding because they're coming out and like, hey, we don't have to do R. Check us out. We don't have to do R-rated films. We're just going to keep doing. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing because I don't know if people noticed. We have some of the highest grossing films in the history of all time.
Yeah.
Did you know James Gunn wrote Dawn of the Dead?
He did.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
No,
Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead is written by James Gunn.
He also wrote two of my favorite cheesy movies to watch, like my guilty pleasure movies. He wrote Scooby-Doo 1 and 2.
Yes, he did.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
And those movies, they're not great, but damn, are they enjoyable? And they count.
But even
made $153 million.
But even going back to what we covered a few weeks ago with James Gunn making his comment about how it seems like now Hollywood
wants to do R superhero movies,
right?
And again, but he was making the same. He made the same argument I made. It's like R doesn't mean substance,
right? To me, Deadpool not only warrants an R-rated film or can warrant an R-rated film because of the over the top in
it can warrant it. But even watching that movie. Easy enough to make a PG-13 cut of that film.
Easy enough.
And still have it be just as good.
But the funny thing is...
They didn't make that, but...
Robert Downey Jr. put up a picture today. It was a little, almost like, a little animated one, almost like a Scotty Young type drawing.
Yeah.
And it was Deadpool, Iron Man, and Cap. And Deadpool's like, hey, did you see my move? And Iron Man cuts him off. Yeah, we saw. It's a little excessive. And Captain America's standing up there, so much language. Language. And it was so funny because that's kind of where we are with this.
Right.
Where you don't have... Deadpool... If you took out all the cuss words with that Deadpool, do you think it would warrant an R-rated film?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, because his penis is outside of it.
There's
when
that.
he's fighting,
I forgot about
that too. But I mean,
I forgot about the
also,
nude scenes.
But it's also one of those things where that's
the violence in it. No, there's no difference in the violence in that than anything else. There wasn't
the extended part of the hand is kind of bad. I mean, cutting it off and
it was no different.
The whole first scene with the SUV.
Yeah, it's pretty
brutal. Really gory.
What was gory about it?
Everything.
What was gory about it?
The excessive blood, cutting people's heads off. Shooting throwing bullet holes right through the head. These type of things are what warrants R rating.
No, none of that stuff.
You show me a that shows people getting shot straight through the head and having the holes. You can see this hole through the head.
Walking Dead. Walking Dead has more gore.
That's
than
MA though.
What was the rating on?
It's
John
not PG-13. That's what I'm saying.
John Wick, I think, is R.
I think it's R because of excessive violence. But it's one of those things.
I to see that
Deadpool is a great movie.
Did you see Homeboy shooting? Keanu Reeves doing training for John Wick 2.
Awesome.
That guy is a gun freak.
Really?
He goes through this course and he's using live rounds. He's got the instructor about, and he's got this submachine gun.
That's what he's doing the training for John Wick.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Training, pops it in, picks out the shotgun. Oh my God! It was incredible.
So here's a question.
You could take what's there in Deadpool and cut that down to PG-13, and it would still be okay. But that's not the movie they made, and that's okay because they again, John Wick is a fantastic movie that's an R-rated film.
Yeah, R-rated.
Again, R does not mean substance because Sucker Punch is a shit movie and it's rated R.
No, it's
not. Do you think that?
Is it PG-13?
I think they did the R-rated They did
Was
the
there unrated
unrated,
There's an
yeah.
unrated
They did an
cut.
underrated cut.
Okay.
Because there's a part where what's her face gets isn't she like raped or something, or she's lobotomized?
It
and-
depends
She's
on which version
lobotomized
of the
at the
movie
end.
too. You see too, because
The
there's
director's
John
cut
Hamm.
at the
there's
end,
a
she gets
different cut for
lobotomized.
Europe and there's a different cut for America.
Well, at the end of it, John Hamm lobotomizes her.
Right. But I mean, even so, like
Yeah,
again, in
PG-13.
Europe they got in Europe the sex scene is cut differently, so it's consensual.
Okay, here's the thing about Deadpool, though. Do you think that Deadpool can be a resilience or a resurgence of actors being more passionate about their projects?
A lot of them already are,
Because,
I would say.
as you're saying with Keanu Reeves,
As
people
terrible-
have a
as
lot
as
of.
terrible as Batman versus Superman looks. I can't say that that Ben Affleck doesn't have passion for a guy who's rewriting that movie almost on a daily basis to try and make Batman as a character feel better to him. Batman
Because he has a lot to prove to people.
sure
as a superhero.
But this is also Batman who is going to carry guns and kill people.
But this is what I'm talking about. Ryan Reynolds, for so many years, people thought he was a horrible superhero actor. Keanu Reeves,
Well, no,
people
wanted-
joke about him all the
people
time.
People wanted Ryan Reynolds to be Kyle Rayner and not Hal Jordan.
He would have been so much better.
Oh, it'd have been better. Yes,
Yeah, and-
I agree.
Do you know what film opened higher than Sucker Punch?
Owls of Ga'Hoole.
No, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Roderick Rules beat Sucker Punch that weekend.
Wow. Box office draw, Zack Snyder. that-
Although I have to say, if Zack Snyder and Michael Bay made a movie together, I would go see it. I know it'd be a
That would
piece of
be
shit.
awful. See,
I
here's-
know it'd be a complete piece of shit, but I want to see how
Well, it'd
much
be
of a
5
piece-
minutes
See,
of
here-
content that's slowed down to 2.5 hours.
Here's my
We've said this
here's
before.
my
Well, that's if we
ideal
had John Yoo
situation
into it.
for a Michael Bay. Take Avengers 2. Joss Whedon cannot direct action for the life of him. Just not good at it. But if someone were to go, Michael Bay, you direct all the action sequences for Avengers 2, and Joss Whedon will carry the character moments
development?
and the story. Boom! You got two directors, and that's the thing is like that would be comic book action crazy. It's like I don't want Michael Bay near any character.
So what you're saying, he
development.
should be a second unit director?
Sure. If they were, it's like, hey, you're directing action
Co-director.
sequences, Michael Bay. Great, because that's the thing is, of everything you could say about Michael Bay, that man knows how to direct action. I mean, you got movies like The Rock.
Yes.
Who
I love The Rock, by the way. I
yeah,
love that movie
it's,
so much.
and it's easily my favorite Michael Bay movie. And even
This
with
was the first one.
and even with
Even Armageddon was pretty good.
Armageddon, but even with something like
Oh no, Con Air. Con Air
Con
is
Air has
awesome.
got great, but even
Yeah.
with like Transformers,
think that's him.
despite the design of the robots hurting the ability to follow story, he still, especially in that first Transformers, he still knows how to make the action flow.
Oh, see, I still enjoy the first Transformers because I think it's visually very good.
Go back and watch it. Go
Oh no,
back. Oh,
yeah,
God.
you've had. I've watched it a number of times. I still enjoy it. I'm not saying it's an amazing film, but I still like the visuals in it. It's more restrained than the other films because the battles in it are a lot smaller. For some reason, I like Josh Duhamel. I don't know why.
I totally forgot. Bumblebee pisses on
Right.
on
Monk's brother.
yes, yeah, and then there's like
Oh no, those scenes are terrible.
Oh,
Yeah.
The whole Section
God.
7 stuff is the stuff with the I want to call him Turtle Top. That's not his name. Tortoise something.
Monk's brother. Let's just go with
Yeah,
that.
but anyway, that stuff is terrible. I couldn't stand
But
any of
even
that.
the-
I
even the
couldn't stand that
stuff
from
where-
the start to
where
the end.
where they're
if you-
inside of
or
the
if you got-
house
or if you
and
got
the
Russo
Transformers are
brothers to
outside.
direct the action in Avengers 2. Would have been
I am
far
curious to
superior.
see how
because my especially my biggest gripe when you let Joss Whedon direct,
I'm sorry, I take that back. Simon West directed Con Air, not
Michael Bay.
not
Michael Bay, okay.
It was produced by Jerry.
because I look at that
Bruckheimer,
like
same.
you've got Avengers 1 and the best creative genius according to Tumblr and the internet Joss Whedon could do is like Captain America's like I'm running on cabs, and then you get the amazing sequence in Winter Soldier where he's on the motorcycle, he flips on top of the Quinjet, he's throwing his shield around.
That wasn't that good.
Joss
Come on.
No,
Whedon.
but even
I'm kidding. No, that scene is
No, no,
fucking
no.
amazing.
it is amazing.
And here's the
but
thing.
then you go to
The
Avengers.
fight scene in the elevator.
Right. And
That's
then-
what,
and then
what
you
I
go-
love Winter Soldier so much because I'm watching the first 10 minutes of that film, and when he fights Batroc, I'm like, this is a kung fu movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And
The action is set,
It's set
almost
perfectly.
all of
Everything
the
in that
hand-to-hand
movie-
combat. If you go back and watch 70s and early 80s kung fu movies,
yeah,
it
totally.
looks so much like his fight with the Winter Soldier. Those quick cuts, the knife flip, that movie is so
Good.
freaking cool.
Yep.
On top of being really good. The thing with Transformers is I'll watch Transformers and go, there's enough in here that it's cool. I just enjoy it.
There's
visually,
a cool factor to
There's
it.
a visual, stunning part to it. And that's why I still enjoy the film.
If
that's
you take
why
all the dialogue
I
out,
still did. 2's got some interesting parts. 3's got some visual stuff. Terrible films. 4 is a disaster from
do you
start
know what
to front.
Transformers movie I'm excited for? 6.
Going 2 ahead. I'm jumping 2 ahead.
Because it'll be the first film without Michael Bay in it.
He's still going to do it.
He'll be producing it, but he won't direct
I
it.
guarantee you
he
that
was
will
also-
change
he
before
was
it happens.
supposed to
No, he's
also-
already.
He wasn't supposed to do 5, remember?
He's already.
He also wasn't
He
supposed
and
to do
Paramount
4.
have already said that's the very last one.
He
This is
also
his,
said he wasn't going to do 5.
this
and
is his
4.
basic redeeming film for that.
No.
I just want to wait and see. But then you get to Avengers 2, and creative genius Joss Whedon again has best Cap can do is like he's winded running on cabs.
Look, I love Joss Whedon.
And
here's the thing.
And then you get, but again,
He
Russo
can write
brothers-
an ensemble cast.
Yes.
He does his best stuff for the small screen.
Yes, he does. But
When
even
he
so,
doesn't have to have
Avengers
when
2
he
has
doesn't have to
good
worry
character
about the big
developments.
budget stuff, when he can just focus on the character development and doesn't have to do all of the exterior stuff, that's where he really shines.
So that's why it's like I want some that's why I'm happy. The moment they said Russo brothers are taking over control of essentially the direction of the Marvel Cinematic Universe
After
and I
Cap 2,
I
yes.
went like, yeah, you know what? Perfect, because they can make a really good movie.
As much as I love Guardians of the Galaxy, Cap 2 is still one of my favorite movies to sit down and watch. And not just because of Winter
They're
Soldier.
also vastly different films, though. That's
completely.
apples to oranges. And even James Gunn knows how to put together a better action sequence than Joss Whedon did. So I'm very happy that especially these
But
two
those two
guys-
films are so much fun. As different as they are, they're so much fun to sit down and just throw on the screen and watch.
right.
you know-
Because they flow really well. They're
They're paced. Yeah.
They have great pacing. There's not a moment in those movies that you go like, it's like, I got some time. Let me go to the restroom. I'll just leave the movie playing.
And for
whatever.
me, if Marvel keeps all of their R-rated stuff on Netflix,
Sure.
I'm fine. I
Yeah.
think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, if I get a Punisher Netflix series, I'll be a happy camper. Because,
I don't want to see an R-rated Captain America film.
Right, but I'm sure there's a lot of producers who are like, man, I can't wait for that R-rated Wonder Woman. I can't wait for that R-rated X-Men film we
See,
got in the works.
Captain Marvel, there's no way I'd want to see
No
it.
need for it. There's
Yeah.
no need for it.
Even an X-Men movie, I don't want to. And I've gone back and forth, even with the X-Force. X-Force, I could say maybe.
X-Force is another.
If they
movie
do Remenders
like,
X-Force, then yes,
X-Force
you
is a
could,
movie like
but it
Deadpool
doesn't
where
do it.
you could go that R and still have somebody behind the wheel who knows how to use the R properly.
Correct.
If you do the Remender kind of storyline
The
for it,
Uncanny X-Force. which
you
would be
could
great.
you can do it just because the subject matter is
Yes,
so
exactly.
deep. Transformers: Age of Extinction made over $1 billion.
Yeah, it's one of the
worldwide.
highest-grossing movies of all time.
Dark of the
Well,
Moon
'cause it
still
made
a
most of
little
it-
bit more, but wow,
It made most of its movie in China.
China. Yeah.
made most of the movie in China. And
I
most of the
mean,
money in China,
most
too.
of the money for the movie in China. That's where I was going with.
$850 million in 4 months.
Okay, so is there anything else that we can add to R-rated films for superhero movies?
Unnecessary.
I mean, can you think of any characters that really do warrant them besides the Punisher and besides?
It's not a warrant thing. It's
Is it
you
a
can
case by case basis or
Yeah.
a film by film?
because again, to faithfully translate something to say we're going to take exactly what's on a comic book page and we're going to put it on a screen doesn't work.
Correct.
We saw it with Sin City.
Yes.
And Sin City is terrible.
we
'cause
saw it
you-
with Watchmen.
Well, you just see, well, they didn't do it with Watchmen. That's the thing is they had to add stuff in order to make that movie interesting.
That's true.
They're like, well, we really need to ramp up that action sequence in the middle rather
Watchmen
than.
should have been the HBO series that Terry Gilliam wanted.
Yeah.
See, I would have loved that. If
So
they-
back to your question.
Which
It,
they're
it all
still talking about
depends
doing.
on what you decide to do. This is what you just talked about with X-Force. If they decide we're going to base it on the ideas that Remender came out with, which is an assassination team that walks in and kills a child
yes,
because he's destined to rebirth Apocalypse somewhere in the future, and Phantom X shoots him in the head, and then we find out he doesn't really shoot them in the head. But if that's what you want to do, you could ostensibly make it an R. You
Phantom
could
X
make it
mind fucks him
PG-13.
so bad though.
Well, that's because Phantom X is
Is one of the greatest.
That's a great
X-Men
character.
Look,
Do you think a Phantom X movie would
they're never
should
gonna
be
make
a-
that film.
You'll never make
but
a
that's the
Phantom
thing.
X.
It doesn't. Could you make an R-rated Superman film? Sure.
Sure.
You could have Superman stand out as the blue Boy Scout character in a
basically-
terrible film filled
basically
with
made
sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
They basically made a rated R Superman movie with Man of Steel. It almost crossed that line.
Yeah, but that's it. Just depends on how you want to take the brilliance of a lot of these characters. Is people will take them and they'll adjust them. They will have different. When Ben Affleck is cast as Batman, everyone lost. He's too old. He's too old. No, he's not too old. Depends on what character you're writing. They're writing Dark Knight Returns, Batman, in which he's already been Batman in the past. He's already had Robin. Something happens to Robin. He's older. So Ben Affleck is perfect for it.
Yes.
What Gal Gadot in it. Everyone's like, oh, look, she's too small. It doesn't matter that she's too small. What matters is the attitude. Why are all of us jerking our cocks over the idea that Emily Blunt should be Captain Marvel? Has nothing to do with whether she looks like Carol or not. The attitude that she's displayed in so many films, that she plays a confident, strong, badass female lead, is perfect for the type of character that Carol on a page has turned into. If they took I can't even think of anybody else, but if they took another actress, you take
Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron could be fine too. We've seen Charlize Theron be a strong lead that you watch her on the screen and she's got a presence and an aura and a sense of confidence, a sense of superiority, not in a bad way. That confident sort of thing. There's a bit of an arrogance edge to some of her roles.
But if you took like Reese Witherspoon
doesn't have. I've never seen her do that. She can do dramatic roles like that, but she usually plays someone who's vulnerable. When you see even Walk the Line as June Carter, there's a vulnerability to that character. As strong as she is and what she did in the life of Johnny Cash, it's still not the same thing as someone who is flying through space, punching Galactus in the chin.
What about Anne Hathaway?
Anne Hathaway's not going to be the same thing either, but a great Catwoman to me, because she has that sly sensibility. She has a sultry sensibility in a few roles that she's done. So it worked in the way that they wrote it. They didn't write that Catwoman as the bullwhip, beating the bad guys. I'm the head of the
Michelle
Gotham.
Pfeiffer.
Yeah, they didn't do any of that. They wrote her as very sly, very, very, very understated, very sultry, not necessarily
very
the
calculated
sex pot.
too.
Exactly, smart and sultry and all of that. And Anne Hathaway plays that fine. So that's the thing, is it's the same thing with doing a whatever sort of
even doing an R-rated film. If you do something that can validate the R rating and not feel like it's being pushed,
it's an adaptability piece. Like I said, part of the best thing of Deadpool is that it actually restrains itself from how far they could have gone, how far we were afraid they were to go. To take the film as a whole and go, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull back on the fourth wall breaking, the amount of lines that are, in-universe jokes. The mansion. Oh, there's only 2 X-Men in the mansion. Oh, it's
even the fourth wall break.
But that's the thing, is all that sort of stuff that's in there.
It worked because it felt organic.
Because it's an organic sort of thing. If you do an R-rated X-Force film, and it's subtle in its nature, it's subtle in its plot and its story, but it's just gory as fuck. That to me is like, you're just doing it to get an R rating.
Right, exactly.
And that's what horror movies used to be. In the 80s, every horror movie was, we're just going to be gory as hell because we're not interested in scaring people as much as we want to gross people out.
It was trying to outgrow the other film.
Mm-hmm. And it was also, when you were in the 80s, R-rated was it guaranteed nipplage. That's an old Quantum and Woody joke. Woody's yelling at Quantum going, but it used to guarantee nipplage. All these R-rated films now are just boring dramas. There's no nipplage in any of these films. He just goes crazy with that sort of thing.
Despite Marvel coming out and saying that they are not going to do an R-rated film, do you think that if they get a script that is R-rated down the line, and it's a good script, that they could say, well, let's go ahead and do it?
I mean, Bob Iger left it pretty open-ended. He said we have no intention of it.
Right.
Which is fair enough. Look, here's the
Does
thing.
it feel like the Batman versus Superman DVD feels like it's doing it just for the sake of doing it because of Deadpool?
Right.
No, it's for the sake of the fact that they already know that people are going to hate this film, and they've got to get people who actually are sort of interested in it to buy something else after they see it and go, well, I saw 2.5 hours. Man, was it crappy. But I bet you that R-rated cut's going to be awesome. I would just go out and go, hey, by the way, guys, Gal Gadot, naked in the director's cut.
Yeah.
John, that's not true. Shh. The gotta buy it.
Just let it slip out.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I'm on fire.
Wow.
That's all it is. I mean, there's even with something like Sucker Punch, where they're just like, oh, it's unrated.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, there's some sultry sex.
Maybe.
John Hamm decides to rape the little girl. Ooh, you got to check this out. Man, that film was terrible. Oh, what? She started naked, and the guy from Mad Men rapes? Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've announced that before the film is even released is basically telling people, guys, when you go see this, just so you know, there's more out there.
There's more.
It's like when I got the director's cut, this gigantic cut of Fellowship of the Ring, the first Lord of the Rings movie, which is vastly superior to
it's almost like watching a different movie.
When I went to see, I watched it after the first time I went to see Two Towers. I go to see Two Towers the second time going, there's so much more to this film. I know there's got to be more to this film. Where's the rest of this? I couldn't wait for those cuts to get out.
Right.
And then you get Return of the King, and it's like 9 hours long.
Those extra cuts actually meant something.
Yes.
Whereas this just feels like,
especially with the Lord of the Rings movies, a lot of those sequences were cut for time,
right?
More than like none of
this
makes sense.
He didn't want to release Return of the King, in which it needed an intermission break.
Versus Batman versus Superman, where I'm sure it's like, oh, we got to cut out Batman blowing out so many people's brains. Because they've already said it. He's a guy who's tired of crime, so he's going to start killing people.
He's a vigilante.
He's a vigilante. He's the Punisher. It's like I know what they're cutting out of that movie. A lot of Batman and guns.
You know what I'm actually thinking they're cutting out of it is Origin.
Probably.
Especially for Wonder Woman. I bet you that director's cut sequence will have some sort of slight montagey sort of origin for.
Well, they've already
shown they're going to cut that out because they've already started production with the Wonder Woman movie.
I know, but you're still going to see it in this. That's my guess.
There is something because there's like a statue or something that there's.
Yeah, well, the statue's different than an extra 10-minute sequence showing how she comes to.
You know what would make me?
There's some representation.
Maybe go see that movie if Doomsday kills Superman.
That's not happening.
No, it's not happening. But that would be the only thing that would make me consider going to see it. Not even going to go see it. If somebody said like...
And then cheer when he dies?
And if somebody were to go like, oh my God, the Doomsday fight is just like the Doomsday fight in the comic. I'd be like,
and then Nicolas Cage is going to come back as the new one.
Maybe. I'll think about it.
Superman.
I'll think about it. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note...
My name is Clark Kent, and I need to find the Declaration of Independence.
And now I think it's time to wrap things up. So make sure to check us out on Facebook, /Nerdables. I know it's /, it's actually a /. And we're also on Twitter, @NerdableShow. And check
the
us.
slow part of the Superman theme. I remember There we go.
There it is.
I knew Sebastian would know it. That's why I looked at him when I said it.
And we'll be back next week with some more from Nerdables.
More from what?
Nerdables.
Nerd.